Hey, what's going on? Today just going live to talk about some stuff in Webflow with p5.js. Specifically, want to talk about TypeScript, which is going to get us into a lot of topics like bundlers and serving code locally and all this interesting stuff. So, main reason I want to talk about it is that I think there are ways that we can create better workflows and better developer environments. So, just kind of expose you to some of those things. I'm definitely not a pro when it comes to bundling code and all this stuff, different ways to set up development environments. But there are some simple things that we can do to make our lives easier. So, some really good. Well, I'll start with this blog post. So, I wrote this blog post as I was formulating my thoughts to get this kind of idea out. And then I was like, oh, I want to make a video about it too. But in general, like, I was looking for some ways to describe why should we do this in the first place. Like, JavaScript is great, JavaScript is wonderful, but if you are comfortable with it, then why would you even bother with TypeScript in the first place? So, one of my favorite streamers and YouTubers and creators is Wes Boss, and he's actually working on a TypeScript course. I got to meet him last week at Reactathon. Super cool guy. And yeah, so these were some of the reasons that came up on his Twitter. So, amazing autocomplete, which enhances your productivity as a developer. You get error detection. You get library typing, so you're less time in the documentation. Database typing, I'm not going to get into that today, but also renaming and refactoring and moving files is easier. And then edge case detection. This is a huge one for me with TypeScript. It's all the way down here. I don't know why they're all labeled as one. Anyways, this is a ton of benefits to using TypeScript. So that's our goal, is we want to, introduce TypeScript to our developer environment and see just kind of some of the improvements that you get to writing code. So I'm going to kind of follow the blog article loosely. I'm going to try to break stuff as we go. So if we run into errors and we don't know what's going on, we're gonna go down that rabbit hole. So if you're looking for like a quick how to get started with TypeScript in Webflow really fast, this is not the video for you. But if you're looking to learn a bunch of stuff about how you can set up developer environment and enhance your JavaScript, then this is definitely the way to go. I'm going to be using ESBuild as a bundler today. So if you're curious about bundlers and you want to learn Webpack or Parcel or a different one, again, we're just using ESBuild. And then I'm also going to use p5.js just as an example. We're not going to be doing much coding in p5, but I'll show you a fun little example and we'll go from there. Anyways, that's the intro out of the way. Super long. Everybody's gone already, but Omkar is here. What is up, Omkar? Just take a second to say hi to what's up, or hi to everybody. Great time for me, 10 a.m. here. Yeah, I know my girlfriend was like, dude, you're late to start streaming. It's already midnight in the East Coast. Most of my audience is actually from the United States, of course, but yeah, I don't know. Whatever, I was feeling ready to stream. So if you want to hang out, that would be cool. But don't see anybody else, so gonna keep going. Also for today, Node.js is a way of running JavaScript on our local computer. Oh, we got, who else we got here? Heather, the real Bay, is here. 10 p.m. is the best time. She's just waking up. My girlfriend's a night owl. And Emmanuel Vieira, I don't know if I've connected with you, but 1:37 a.m. here, time to sleep. Yeah, you should go to bed, man. So have a nice, have sweet dreams. Anyways, yeah, so Node.js is a way of running JavaScript on our computer. Before, JavaScript just ran in browsers. So like when you open up Chrome DevTools here, we can console.log hello world. And this works great in the browser, but if you wanted to run JavaScript on your local machine, you need something like Node.js. And we're not actually going to be running JavaScript on our local machine. It's still going to be running in the browser, but Node.js does come with a tool called NPM. And NPM stands for Node Package Manager, which is what we're going to be using to install libraries that we use today. The other thing you'll need is a code editor. I use Visual Studio Code. It's a Microsoft product. Been using this for quite some time. There's tons of extensions. The other one that I hear people use a lot is Sublime Text. There's lots of other ones out there too, though, but that's what I'm using today, so you will need this as well. What else do we have? Code editor. Yeah, let's go ahead and check. I'm using a Mac today, so terminal, these things are running on Unix. My terminal is up here on the other browser for some reason. How do I bring this in? Oh man, we're already running into issues. I'm going to try to come over to the desktop, and there we go. We can bring it in here. Okay, zoom in. So a command you can run to check that you have your software installed is just checking the version. So I'll type npm-v here, And you can see I'm using version 8.19.3 of npm. Node-v would give me the version of Node that I have. I have version 18. So that's all I wanted to show you there. Let's go back to the blog post. So we've got that, and now we're going to take a look at our starting code. So I have a Webflow project, and if I go to home, there's absolutely nothing on this Webflow project, but if we head into home here, and we come down to the before closing body tag, hopefully you're very familiar with this. This is what I'm trying to get you. If you're in this place or you're using Code Sandbox, then I'm trying to upgrade your level a little bit here. So the very first thing that we're doing is we're pulling in the code for p5.js. Now we're using the minified version of the JavaScript code, as you can see, .min.js, and we're using version 1.6.0. Oh, zooming in too much there. But this is what we have here. And if you don't know what a CDN is, it stands for Content Delivery Network, and I can just copy and paste that into the browser, and lo and behold, we have all of the code that's needed to run P5. That's how we're importing the code to our project. So if you didn't know that, that's a funny little thing you can do. And then we could probably get rid of this .min here at the top. I don't think you can see the top of my browser bar because of the stream, but this is going to be more human readable, but of course it's going to be larger in size. Anyways, that's how CDNs, how you can import code from CDNs. And then I just have a simple P5 setup here. I'm not really going to go into this code. The blog post has a little description on how it all works. So let's close that down and see the live site. We just have two circles that are orbiting around a center and intersecting there at the points because we're setting the positions using sine and cosine functions. I'm going to close down this DevTools here. So I think that's a good intro on everything that we have so far. Here's the bit of the blog post that talks about setting everything up and how P5 works. But we're all done with that, so let's get back to business. Now, the main thing I want to do is I want to pull the code from Webflow. Right now, the code is on Webflow servers, but I want to run it from my personal computer. Basically, my personal computer is going to be serving the code. The alternative is that a CDN is hosting the code. So we're deciding right now, like, who's hosting the code. And the thing I want to do is I want to host the code because my local environment has the tools that I want, like TypeScript, ESBuild, all these things that can help me be a more productive developer. So let's go back into home here. And I'm just going to cut this code right here. And let's go ahead and save that. And I'm going to come over to my desktop. And let's go ahead and create a new folder. And I'll just call this stream. Come on, I want to rename this. What do I do? Press enter? Yeah, stream. Okay, and then that's good. I have a folder on the desktop. You could make that anywhere. I usually am working within my documents folder. Anyways, I'm in VS Code now, and I'm going to hit Command O to basically open a project, and I want to open the entire folder of stream. Now, there's absolutely nothing in there, and that's fine. Yes, I trust the authors because that is me. And I'm going to zoom in one, and over on the left here we have our navigator. So what I want to do is start adding some code. Now let's create a JavaScript file just by creating, I just pressed this create new file button here, and we named it index.js. And now I'm going to go ahead and paste that code, and I'll save. And there we go. We have some JavaScript that's saved on our local computer, the exact same JavaScript that was from Webflow. So I'm going to close that welcome message out. And now I also want to I want to serve this code though. I want somehow to be able to pull it into my Webflow project. And so the way I can do that is by creating a server. And for that, I use an extension called Live Server. I've used NPM packages called serve before too, but we're going to go ahead and use Live Server in this case. And let me see, I kind of shut out a bunch of stuff on my VS Code because I don't like to have a bunch of stuff up. And I have this little thing down here in the status bar, go live, click to run live server. And the way I have that is via a extension. So I'll go ahead, which one do I want here? I think I want the activity bar. Yeah, this one. In VS Code, if you come over to extensions and then you search live server, this is the one you want. So you can see it says uninstall for me, but yours will say install. And I just want to show you that that exists. So let's shut that down. Let me come back to view and get rid of the activity bar. And we'll click go live now. So we go live and I get a pop-up that says server is started at port 5500 and the source is live server extension. I'm wondering, let's see, it actually showed up on another Chrome tab on my other monitor, but if I just open up a new tab and I take the address 127.0.0.1 and I put it up here in the top, you can see listing directory 127.0.0.1 and port 5500, and now we can see our index.js JavaScript file. If I go ahead and click it, now we can see that's exactly the code that I wrote, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to take from that address bar, you can't see it because it's off screen again. Let me actually see if I can bring it down. There you go. That's much better. Now I'm trying to click on OBS like it's my actual computer. So I'll take this and I'll come back to Webflow. Come into the project settings. Actually, this is the page settings, sorry. And now instead of importing the code from the CDN, I'm going to import it from our localhost. Localhost is the same thing as 127.0.0.1. So I'll save, and now I'll publish, but stuff's going to be broken. So we're expecting things to be broken, but that's okay. We are incrementally learning what we need to do. And if I save, you can see stuff is broken. I'm not getting any error messages, but the thing is that I'm running index.js, which we know is here, but nowhere have I told my project to import p5. So we could, I deleted the p5, let's say JS deliver CDN. We could actually re-import it this way. This is how kind of your code sandbox kind of style works. Let's just copy that, come back to Webflow, and paste that in there, and save. And now our code should be able to run properly because we have p5 running in global mode. And there you go. So p5 has this thing called global mode. They actually have a whole wiki about it, global versus instance mode. One of the things we have to do when we're using bundlers and using TypeScript is we have to shift how we're writing our code from global to instance mode. Now what's going on is p5.js in the background. Yes, Omkar, we haven't imported p5 yet, but we're going to get to that. I kind of want to show this first and how it doesn't work. And so global and instance mode, what's p5 is looking for all this stuff in global mode. It's looking for down here. Oh, that's not the place we want to look. We want to look in VS Code. It's looking for this draw function. It's looking for this setup function. And these are all on what's called the global namespace. Let me see. I want to see if we come to our project and we print out the window, if setup exists on the window object. Window is kind of like, it's the global namespace for the browser. So I'm just scrolling down here. There's all sorts of stuff in here. In here you would find like document, you would find, trying to think, navigator. Yeah, that's something I use. I do use query selector a lot, but that exists on the document object. What are we looking for in the first place? We're looking for draw and setup. So I already passed draw. That would have been a better one to look at. So here's setup right here. Now what's crazy is that like setup is from p5. It's not from the window object. Let me see if draw is in here too. Yeah, draw is in here as well. So p5 is adding this to our global namespace, which if we're doing 2 instances of p5, or say we import another library that wants to put setup and draw on the global namespace, that's pretty bad practice. So we need to protect our code by putting it into instance mode. And we will get to that in just a second. So let me go back to the blog here and see, we've got our extensions, we went live, we put our code in, and that is good. So now we want to look at using npm to install p5. Omkar is saying we can also import and load p5 in VS Code. I saw Alex do that with the FinSuite starter template. It's more optimized and lightweight that way. Yeah, basically like when we're managing multiple libraries, npm is a way that we can manage. It's a way that does it all for us. It controls all the versions. It installs stuff in the right places and manages namespacing and all that kind of thing. So that's exactly correct. And that's what we're going to do. So I brought up a terminal here by pressing Command J. You could probably get that. I don't know if you hit View. Let's see. Let's go to Help. If we type terminal, terminal is under View, and then terminal down here. So that's what we want. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type npm init. And init stands for initialize. So essentially what we're doing is we are initializing our project here with npm. And we get npm is actually a tool to like host code. We're not going to actually do that today, but we can use it to also manage packages like I mentioned. So first thing it wants, it's going to ask us some questions. Do you want a package name? We'll call it stream. Sorry, stream is a core module name, so I guess I can't use that. We'll call it yt-stream. That's fine. Version 1.0.0. I'm just going to press enter. I'm not going to go through any of these. Just keep pressing enter. Is this all okay? Yes. Okay. So we can see we've got our command prompt back. I'm going to hit Command J, and then I'm going to hit Command B, and I'm going to zoom out so I can actually see what I'm doing now. Let me zoom in one more. And we'll come to appearance, and we'll bring up the activity bar back. We're going to go back to the Explorer, and we can see now we have this package.json. Package.json was built by npm when we ran npm init, and it gives us this object here, this config object, and you can see it's the exact stuff that it was just asking us about. The main is index.js, so this is an important one. It knows where to start running our file from. But now we can use npm to actually start installing packages. And I see Omkar is asking for the blog link in the chat. So yeah, just go to webbay.net/blog. I'll go ahead and drop that in for you. I think it's the latest one. There you go. Sweet. Okay, where were we? Yeah, we want to start installing stuff now. So Command J to bring terminal back up. And all I have to do is type npm install, and you can't see this because I moved. Yep, so let me bring that back up. Now you can see. So down here, I typed npm install, and we want to install p5. I think it's p5. Yeah, the way you could check is go to npm.com. I'm assuming it's npm.com. It's definitely not npm. It looks like it's npmjs.com, and this is already saved for p5, but we just search p5. So we can see p5 is the match here. So this is the name that we're going to use to install it. And yep, nothing else to show there. So let's go back. Now, okay, npm's installing it for us, and if we look at package.json, now we see we've added dependencies, this p5. So npm is tracking that we need p5 in our project. And now what we can do is we can import that into our index.js file. So close that down, and we can import, let's say p5 from p5. And this needs to be in quotes. But I have a feeling we're going to get an error. Let me save. We're not actually using the p5 object, so that's something to think about, right? Let's go back to our project here and refresh. It's broken. What are we getting? We're saying cannot use import statement outside of module. Okay, so we've run into an issue. Now, modules are this thing introduced with JavaScript ES6. I'm not going to get too into this, but essentially what we need to know is that the way npm wants to bring the files into our code is it's expecting kind of some more modern tooling. And that modern tooling is where we need to introduce a bundler. So the other thing we need to get our function or our setup running here is a bundler, which we're going to use ESBuild. I want to check the blog post real quick to make sure that we got all the distance that we need. Yep, so we imported everything. I talk a little bit here about other errors and like ways you can try to import p5 from your node modules folder and specify type equals module within your script tag, but you're just going to run into a lot of errors doing that, so not really recommended. So we're going to go down the path of adding a bundler. And I mentioned ESBuild, so that is right here. If we go to the home page, I want to bring your attention to these major features. So it talks about speed. That's great. Whatever. We have a pretty simple program, so we don't need that much speed. But we see it supports TypeScript right out of the box, so it's going to compile our TypeScript code down to JavaScript. It's got an API for CLI, JavaScript, and Go. We don't care that much about that. But it bundles ESM and CommonJS modules. So this is the big one that we're looking for. Like P5 is written most likely as an ESM module, and that's what we want to use to bundle all of our code together. It's got some other really nice stuff. Tree shaking. This refers to just using pieces of code that only your code needs rather than importing an entire, library. Minification. So we'll minify our code so that it takes up less space as well. Source maps so that when we have errors, it can link it back to exactly in our code where the error was. Local server and watch mode and plugins. So actually local server, like we don't even need live server. We could use ESBuild to serve our code. And watch mode is like, rather than running a build command every time, we can have ESBuild watch our code and so that it knows when we've made changes to automatically rebuild the project. And they even introduced recently a, what was it called? Hot reload, so that you don't even need to like save and refresh. It'll just do it all for you. Really nice. And Omkar mentioned the FinSuite Developer Starter, which is really great. If you want to take it to the next level, then just get started with that. But I kind of want to show you how to make this yourself and where everything is coming from. But that's kind of like the pre-built, everything's all wrapped up for you, and Alex like maintains it really well. So definitely once you kind of have a handle on what's going on here, that's what I use like day to day. So maybe we'll get into that at the end here or in a different stream. Anyways, there you see the major features, but we want to get started. So let's install ESBuild. We can, do I want to save exact? Sure. First, download and install pre-built native executable using npm. This will install in your node modules folder. So yeah, let's go ahead and just run that. And again, Command J down here. Okay, making sure you can see it on the stream. You can. Let's go ahead and run that command. It added 2 packages. We go to package.json. We can see it added this to our dependencies. Now, I kind of want this to be actually saved to our dev dependencies. So npm uninstall ESBuild, and that removes it from dependencies. And we'll just npm, rather than copy pasting, install, and then we can use this minus capital D flag, and that should install as a dev dependency because we don't need this package in production. Okay, and then it said we can verify our installation with this command here. Let's try and run this and see what we get. Yep, so we're getting version 0.17.18, and essentially what we're doing is we're running the command from inside node modules. So if I come into node modules and then I come into .bin, then the ESBuild file is right here. Let's see, open anyways. What do we get? A text editor? Yeah, that's not what I want. Anyways, we're getting a version. Let's see. Kind of curious what we can get. Not going to bother with this right now. I think that's a little bit beyond the scope. Anyways, we were able to tell the version, so yes, we know that we installed ESBuild. Let's head back to the blog and check up on how we're doing. So we installed it with this command here. And now in the package.json, we need to start adding some stuff. And rather than trust my blog, you should trust the maintainers of the package who write the documentation. So here we have your first bundle. What do we want to do? We're not working in React. We're not that interested in this, but here is, we want to tell ESBuild to bundle our file. So we can kind of copy this here and come back to our project, and I'm just going to get out of that. So here's what we're saying. So we want to run that command again. Now app.jsx, that was from the documentation. We need to change this to index.js. And we're going to give it the bundle flag. So we want to bundle here. And we want to specify an out file equal to out.js. So I'll go ahead and click return. And we can see now, okay, ESBuild is saying that it made this file out.js. It's 1.3 megabytes, which is large. It's giving us some sort of warning here. And done in 74 milliseconds. So if I come, you can see over here, out.js is right here, and it's this like big gobbledygook file of a bunch of crap. Now what's going on here is that out.js is actually including P5 within its code. So this is all P5 stuff. If I search P5, we can see there's a ton of like p5.graphics, p5.element, p5.renderer, 162 results. And it won't be until the very end of this file that I can actually see the code down here. Can I even see it? Let's see. This is still all P5 stuff. Let's come up here and see what is something that would be unique. Let's just console log setup. So change or set up the file, I don't know, 4321 and save. And now we need to rebundle our file. So I'm going to run that command again. I press the up key on my keyboard. And let's go ahead and actually I'm going to copy this. Let's see if we can find this in our out file. Come to out.js, find, Control F, no results. Now setup is going to find a bunch of setup because P5 has its own setup function. I'm curious why we couldn't find that console log. I would expect that to find it. Anyways, let's actually see what we can do. I'm going to come back and verify that we've made it as far as we need to here. Yes, we have. Let's go ahead and run that out.js and see what we get. So I need to come back to Webflow, and where we're importing our script here, let's change this to out.js, and now I can get rid of this CDN because we don't want to import it twice. I'll get rid of this one as well. And save and publish. Yeah, Napu, that's exactly right. It's not compiling console logs. That's TypeScript. Well, the TypeScript compiler is probably pulling that out. Okay, let's refresh here, and it's not working. So that is a bummer. Let's check come to our network, and we can see we're getting out.js, and it's loading everything. So what am I doing wrong? What I'm doing wrong is I haven't converted our code over to instance mode yet. I'm still not doing anything with P5. So here is where, and you can see kind of, I don't know if you're able to tell, but I'm trying to zoom in with my mouse, but setup is kind of grayed out, and so is draw. We're not actually ever calling this. So what we can do now, come back to our blog post. So we compiled our file. Unfortunately, if we change our script, the code does still not work. And why is that? So this is where I kind of start talking about instance mode. I have the link to that wiki that I mentioned earlier. That's very good, so definitely recommend reading through that as well. And now we don't have the setup or draw functions. So I kind of put right here, what we need to do is that we need to use the new keyword to instantiate a new P5 object. So let me come back to our code. And actually, I don't need these curly brackets here. But we can say let, I don't know, capital P5 equal new P5. And we'll pass this a variable of sketch. And now we can say const sketch is a function. And we're going to open and close brackets. Actually, I'm using old syntax here, ES5. So let's go ahead and see if we can do it that way. Function sketch. Open, close parentheses, open, close brackets. And what do we want to do here is we want to pass P, and now we can just take all of this. Well, before we do that, let's console.log P. And we need to build the file. So I'm going to run that command again. And we can come back to Webflow, not Webflow, but our live page. What do we get in console? So we can see now, these should look familiar if you're familiar with working in P5. We've got the P object has all these properties. It has the canvas. It has the drawing context. It has mouse X, mouse Y. It has width, window height. So this is basically our P5 object. So what we need to do now is come back to our code, and we want to put all of this inside of our sketch closure. So I'm going to cut this, come down here, get rid of console log P, And this, we don't need to declare these functions. We'll just say p.setup and p.draw. I'm curious if I say p dot. So now we're getting some autocomplete here with p. It's not perfect. And this is not TypeScript yet, so we're not getting amazing autocomplete. It's still a JavaScript file, right? And I've got some sort of syntax error going on here, so let me just check this real quick. So p.setup, we have to declare it as a function. So we'll say equals function, not function, just like that, and equals function. So now we can go ahead and save, and let's rebuild the file down here, and we'll come back to our project and see if we have this thing working yet. Okay, create canvas is not defined. That's great. We're making progress. And the reason is, again, create canvas, we don't have our global space anymore. So we still have to use this p object, right? Everything that we were using before that was part of p5, we have to append this p dot because it exists on this p parameter up here within our sketch function. So I have to add it here, have to add it here, have to add it here. I don't know if I need to add it to these ones. Let's see. Yeah, I definitely need to add it to these ones. Yes, so let's save that and we'll rebuild. And let's see what we get. Okay, set up the file at 4321. Our console log made it through, but frame count is not defined. So there's another one. Where was I using frame count? Yep, right here. p.framecount. And let's save. Frame count is not defined. What am I messing up with that? I'm using frame count here, p dot in front of all of them. Not sure why that's not behaving. Let me just check the code that we have here real quick. Okay. Did I not compile? That's probably what I didn't do. Let me rerun our build command. Click enter. And refresh. Okay, that was the problem. I did not rebuild our code. Anyways, you saw this was kind of annoying, right? So TypeScript is going to be the next thing that really helps us to not have to deal with, did I need to put p in front of this thing, the p dot or whatever. So we're closing in on the home stretch here, which is good. But the main thing we need to do is wonder, what about TypeScript? So funnily enough, all we have to do is change this index.js to index.ts. And now we have a TypeScript file, which is super cool, but we have to do a couple other things before we can actually utilize this TypeScript file. So the very first thing I can think of off the top of my head is, oh, in my package.json, I didn't have a build command, but I was running this build command, node modules, bin, ESBuild. I'm just down here, and I'm bundling, and I'm sending it to an out file .js. If we go back to the documentation for ESBuild, we see it actually gives us this hint at the next section in the Getting Started guide on build scripts. So let's go ahead and rather than run this every time in the console, we'll go ahead and copy that and come back and add it to this scripts object. So I put a comma, return, and then just copy paste that. Now again, we don't need this app.jx, but we have index.ts now. And we're going to bundle it and we're going to send it to the same file. So let's save. And now instead of running the same command, I can run npm run build, just like that. And the exact same thing will happen. It's running that command and we have our out.js. So, and it's also compiling our TypeScript down to JavaScript, which is really nice for us. You know, we changed what type of file this was, but ESBuild knows how to do that. So that's kind of like, it's really nice that we have that available. So I'll come back here and refresh. Everything is still working, and now we're able to take advantage of TypeScript. And what I want to show you is, like, let's say, you know, I was having trouble with this p.framecount. If I put p dot and start typing frame count, I get really nice autocomplete. Let's see, p dot frame count. Trying to see. Oh, you know what it is? So a lot of times with TypeScript, we want to start, like, what's cool about TypeScript is if you know JavaScript, you can start using it right out of the box. But it's hinting a couple things at us that I'm not really cueing you into. And these three little white dots right here. So the very first thing is it's saying it can't find a declaration file for module P5. If the P5 package actually exposes this module, consider sending a pull request. So I'm thinking like maybe we need to pull in types. Let's see what the quick fix is. Yeah, so we want to install @types.p5 or /p5. So let's go ahead and click that. And if I come to package.json, we can see now that in our dev dependencies, it's added this package, the p5 types. So we got rid of the little white dotted underlines here, but we see we have some here. And so we're passing a parameter to sketch, and it's saying it's any. Now we know as developers, like, okay, we need to pass the p5 object parameter to our function sketch because sketch is being passed to our p5 constructor down here. But again, it's any and returns type of void. So our code, TypeScript doesn't know anything about p dot. But if we just take a colon and specify a type of p5, just like that, and save, and now if I hover over p, it knows that it's type p5. Let's see. So now when I do p dot, I have all these awesome autocomplete options available. So p dot frame count is something that exists as like a property on the p5 object. And I'm going to delete that, but if I hover, I want to see, we talked about like reducing how often you go to the documentation, and that's because the documentation is being brought right into our code editor here. So here we can see that radians is a function that takes a parameter called degrees, which is a number, and converts a degree measurement to its corresponding value in radians. And we can just hover over anything like no stroke, disables drawing the stroke or outline, and we didn't have any of this available before, right? I wonder if I delete that and save. Yeah, see, now it's just p is an any, like TypeScript doesn't know anything about the p type right now until we tell it, hey, it's actually a p type p5. And that's really all we need to do to start getting all this awesome autocomplete. It's like p dot circle, and I could say wave, but if I'm typing it wrong, then it's underlining it in red, and it's going to tell me like expected 3 arguments but got 2. And this is happening before compile time. Normally, if we were just in JavaScript, these errors would be coming to us after we compile, as we were running the code on our live site, right? So this is a big improvement in terms of catching errors early, and yeah, just kind of making our code quite a bit more protected. So what I can say again now is npm run build, and we get our out.js is rebuilt. And let's see what this extra circle does to our code. I refresh, and now we get 3 circles oscillating around. So there you have it. We've got some things, you know, really there's a ton to explore with ESBuild. This was like the most basic setup you could get out of the box. I would definitely look at a lot of the options that the API provides. So minify is a big one that you're going to want to add. Source map is a big one that you're going to want to add. What else do you want to do? Like there's a watch flag. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just add it right now just so you can see. But if we go to our package.json and add --watch and save, now when I run npm run build, we can see it's in watch mode, build finished, and watching for changes. So I don't have to run every time. Now let's say I change this to wave 2 and this to wave 2 and save, then build. All I did was save and the build already finished. And I can come back. It's probably not going to look any different, our code, but it's going to just starts from a different position, but it's still the same motion. Let me check the site here. So we've got TypeScript, and I talked about specifying the actual type as p5 type, and we're getting autocomplete. Okay, so 2 notes that I want to leave you with are, 1, this is still hosted on our computer, right? Like if you are at home and you type this into your browser bar, you're going to, most likely, you're going to get an error unless you're actually serving some code on port 5500. So now we need to host our code somewhere else. And whether you host it on NPM or from GitHub, or you want to copy and paste your code back into Webflow, you know, the sky's the limit kind of on where you can go now. But that's a topic for a different stream. what you could do is you could take out JS and you could just, copy paste this whole thing into between two script tags in your Webflow project, but you still wouldn't need to import from CDN p5. So that's one way you could go about it. Or you could just say, like, you could compile your index.ts down to JavaScript and not import p5. So it just depends what you want to do. But the problem we have is this little syntax right here. This is TypeScript specific. So if I plug this into the browser, we're going to get errors in our code because the browser doesn't know how to interpret this kind of code. So that's something really important to think about, is how you're hosting your code. I do have another video on how to host it from GitHub using JS Deliver, but again, not going to get into that now. The other thing to get started would be to look at the FinSuite Developer Starter. So this is a wonderful template that uses a lot of these tools and other tools as well that I'll get into kind of how to use maybe at another point. Pretty sure Alex has a video all on this as well. But what you can do is use this template, create a new repository, and essentially you have what we just built out of the box with a ton of other bells and whistles on top of it. Yeah, that's really all I want to do. I'll check the chat here real quick. I got one question. Is there a difference if you use the p5 CDN in the page settings instead of including p5 in the built code? Honestly, pretty much the same thing. The CDN is using another network request. So it really depends on, it's going to be the same code regardless though, assuming that in both cases you are importing or you're fetching the minified code. So the answer to your question, is there a difference if you use the p5 CDN in page settings instead of including p5 in the built code? The big difference is that, if you're importing it via CDN, you can't take advantage of things like TypeScript and your local development. You can't, that's kind of the big deal here that I'm trying to impress upon. And I probably didn't show enough of how useful TypeScript can be and what ESBuild can do. But that's the major thing, is that, we can code away and we have autocomplete and the docs all in one place. So for small JavaScript files like this, honestly, Code Sandbox is probably going to be fine. But when you get into huge projects and you have multiple files and multiple folders and directories, having TypeScript to provide more safety for you when you're coding, as well as to keep you the docs right at your fingertips, you'll find to be very helpful. So this is definitely something to graduate to once you're more comfortable with JavaScript. But just wanted to expose you guys to that. And responses make sense. If you use TypeScript, then that's the way. Yeah, so basically, if you're a TypeScript user, yes. If you're not using TypeScript and it's all JavaScript anyways, then probably it doesn't matter too much. Omkar says you missed my question. So let me come up here. What are the helpers then? So dependency will be added into the final code, and dev dependencies will only be in VS Code for our help and won't be added in the final code. Oh yes, that is exactly correct. So when we bundle our files, anything in dependencies is getting bundled into this out.js file. Anything in dev dependencies is not getting bundled. This is just basically getting thrown out. So because the browser doesn't care about types, it doesn't care about our build tool, our bundler, right? It just cares about the raw JavaScript that's being run, which is this gobbledygook crap in the out.js file. So I think that answers your question. I forgot how to do page end and page start. Is it function up? Yeah, okay, there we go. Page up and page down. So many things. Well, that's really all I have. Unless you guys have more questions, I would be happy to answer more. But it looks like I answered all the questions. We made it. We survived. Bundlers, to me, this has taken me definitely more than a year to wrap my head around. When you start using React and these frameworks, Next.js and those sorts of things, they have bundlers from the get-go. And so you're kind of using these things without ever knowing why or what you need or why they were invented in the first place. So I think it makes sense to kind of take a step back and just start from the JavaScript and be like, what's the reason for this? Why do these exist in the first place? And they're very powerful tools. They do a bunch more. And so I'm still trying to wrap my head around a lot of the stuff that they can do too. But yeah, thank you guys for attending. I will sign off for the stream from there and catch you in the next one. Chat soon.